Hello, and welcome to the newest series on Shatter Our Souls. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Every week I try to continue a challenge series from earlier on and see how things go. Today, we're breaking out Mario Kart Double Dash, originally for the GameCube. Now, Double Dash has a couple of notable issues. Uh, First and foremost, we're doing this itemless. Doing a Mario Kart game itemless is a challenge, primarily because the opponent vehicles are meant to be the same speed as you. And if there isn't a means of holding them back, then there is, shall we say, if you can't keep your opponent back, you will end up falling behind and losing the race altogether. To combat this, however, we have the drift mechanic, which allows for short boosts. Now, this in and of itself isn't a huge deal, and it's kind of a toss-up whether having the drift in and of itself or the items is better. Now, at 50cc, this isn't the end of the world. It's pretty simplistic to get through. But hitting 100, 150, and mirror mode, it can definitely change up how the game is played altogether. Now, the rules for items in this run are going to be as such. I am not allowed to intentionally drop items. If it's a banana, if it's a shell, no go. If for whatever reason I end up dropping it due to something like getting hit by a blue shell, a bus, or something else altogether, that is still okay, as long as I personally do not hit the button to drop it. Likewise, if an item is on the ground like a red mushroom, I can utilize that to get a speed boost. I cannot intentionally use it from the character's hand or item slots. This is meant to make things a little bit more reasonable and a little bit more fair, as I don't want to end up going through 16 races in the All Cup Tour and lose in the final race on Rainbow Road to a random red mushroom that fell on the road. So there will be times where I will be using items in an unconventional way. So, with that in mind, we're now on to race 2. Now, I want to kind of pass on a little bit of information. This, I believe, is going to be the first series that I do not as a solo player, but as part of a duo. I am planning, in part, to get a hold of one of my old friends. Goes by the nickname of Bubbledead. And Bubbledead is going to join me as player 2, because being able to card a couple opponents every now and again is going to be kind of humorous, and I can't lie, I'm all for it. Gotta love Mushroom City. Gotta also remember that some of the shortcuts are not the greatest. But that being said, it's a little of this, a little of that. It's meant to be... it's pretty decent overall. What I have to say about Mario Kart Double Dash compared to other more familiar games out there, especially in today's day and age, is that Double Dash's control scheme is a little bit different than what some of the newer ones are. For one, the handling is a lot more slippery. Easiest way to describe the handling in Mario Kart Double Dash compared to the most recent Mario Kart 8 is that Double Dash is handling as if you are constantly in a zero gravity section. This means, without being too short-sighted, that the game itself has a lot of kind of slip and slide mechanics. And it will make it easier going down the line when I attempt this at a later time with a different game, but overall at the moment it is something to note. And also, they were a lot more liberal when it came to cars in this game. I personally love that they did that because it means that there's always a lot more, shall we say, a lot more road hazards going throughout the tracks that just in general make the game a lot more fun. Um, the reason why I want to recruit somebody, by the way, is because multiplayer mode is rather unique. Multiplayer in Mario Kart Double Dash compared to virtually every other racing game in existence is that Double Dash's system has the player on the front of the vehicle driving. The player on the back handles the items. Now, Bubble Dead has sworn into not using items, and I have flat out said that if it gets used, we will restart the entire cup. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful. Mario Kart Double Dash has a couple of bonuses that come with it. First and foremost, the person in the back of the vehicle can melee attack, which is just a fancy word for punch, kick, something. This moves the entire cart in that direction, meaning that in theory, it would be as if we have two drivers or we have somebody who is actively trying to avoid risks like red shells. Now, a properly timed punch can dodge a red shell, and ironically enough, a properly timed punch can also, whatchamacallit, you can knock opponents off the stage, dodge red shells, and use it as a somewhat non-conditional boost. So, after being hit by an item, you can use it to get back up to speed very quickly. This is more reasonable when you have a second player who's on the same page as you. And while Bobble Dead and I have never played Mario Kart Double Dash together, we both have a interest in the older games out there, so we thought that it would be a good chance to hang out, spend some time, and laugh together. So for now, this is just me. The downside of multiplayer is that the drift boost mechanic is non-existent, which effectively means that the red and blue sparks that you see by the tires don't... What in the world just happened? Anyways, the red and blue sparks that you get at the tires do not actually have a boost at all in multiplayer mode. So there is some give and take to it. But generally, multiplayer mode is the safer bet when playing Mario Kart Double Dash just in general. Partially because it's the only one that allows multiple players on the same kart. Anywho, we are rounding out third lap of Yoshi's Island, and I got on or Yoshi's Circuit, and I have to admit that this is probably one of the most iconic in the franchise. Now, growing up, I started playing Mario Kart Double Dash when I was about 6-7 years old. And so, this is one of those tracks that, growing up, always caused me headaches. I loved the game, I struggled with the courses. And so, being able to play the game and enjoy the tracks as they were, I found that this particular one was always a challenge, partially because of its, shall we say, non-linear nature. There was always room for growth in it because the lines that you take on the race were non-traditional, shall we say. Awesome. Final lap was the best of the three. And we're heading into the final race, DK Mountain. Now, the issue with Yoshi's Circuit was that I struggled to find the accurate racing lines, so I often ended up flying off track every once in a while. DK Mountain, on the other hand, is fairly straightforward. In fact, driving off-road in any capacity barely slows you down, if at all. So, it is fair to say that DK Mountain is, by far and away, one of the easier tracks in the game. what DK Mountain lacks in terms of complexity, it makes up for in terms of its, shall we say, its item game. Now, some tracks in Mario Kart have what I'll call item points, locations in the race where a AI as well as players are encouraged to drop items. In this case, the bridge here on DK Mountain is one such location. Now, I can't count the number of times that I was carded on DK Mountain because of bananas on that bridge. It seems kind of silly. One small location, why are all the items bunched up there? But the reason is because of the potential bonuses that come along with it. Not only do you get to drop an item that has the potential of slowing down your opponent, but they also have the potential of knocking the opponent off a cliff, which slows them down even further. Mario Kart Double Dash is one of those games that has a very low wake-up time, which means you can get hit by multiple shells or bananas in quick succession, and all of them have a very similar effect. Something that in later games, such as Mario Kart 8, there's a little bit more of an invincibility frame. You have time to get yourself back in order before the game starts to let you get hit again. So, overall, where does this leave us? Personally, I think Double Dash has a lot of unique mechanics that make it more desirable than some other games out there. But Double Dash also has a number of, shall I say, weaknesses as well. But we will discuss those at a later date on a track-by-track basis. So, overall, I think we're in good hands. Truth be told, I don't even know if it would be possible to beat the game itemless, but there's only really one way to find out, and that is by doing it. So join me on this journey through the, I suppose now 20-year-old game, Mario Kart Double Dash, as we try to answer the question, is it possible to truly 100% Mario Kart Double Dash without dropping a single item intentionally? I gotta love these award ceremonies. They really didn't do it justice in the later games. Quite a shame, really. If you like what you see, drop a like, leave a sub, and we'll catch you next time. Until then, have a good one.